What's good, everybody? It's the Clown with Cab Show. Really some crazy times in 2021, right? Dealing with the hatred, dealing with the violence that we continue to see day in and day out in the media. And that brings me to a point that I've always debated about: when is hatred going to stop here in America? Not just here in America, but in the world wide. To me, it's just like this has always existed, right? Hatred, violence has always existed, but now we can finally see it because of technology. But to me, we have kids now in our society growing up to really be taught to, hey, you should hate cops now. And yes, I'm getting into this. We shouldn't hate every single cop because there are good cops out there. And I understand a lot of people have a different feeling of cops, especially for the younger generation now. I'm talking teenagers, kids that, haven't even hit their teens yet to where they're growing up to where, hey, they should hate cops. We should have a disagreement with cops from day one, but some of these cases we have to understand that, it's not always the cop's fault. And yes, 100% the George Floyd situation, 100% is the cop's fault, no doubt about it. The cop, they could have actually the cops on the scene, they could have handled it way differently, right? Don't put him on the ground, don't sit on his neck for over 9 minutes, maybe it was 7 minutes, whatever. Whatever it is, you should have left George Floyd in the vehicle. To me, why put him on the ground? To me, that was ignorant. But to me, the Daunte Wright situation is really questionable, right? And I think on both sides of this situation, yes, we had a lady cop pull out a gun and shot him and killed Daunte Wright, where she mistakenly said, hey, I thought it was a taser, it was my fault, which, to me, being a cop, a trained officer as she was, to me, I feel like you should know the difference between a taser and a handgun, right? From the weight, the look of the gun, where the gun's at, where you carry your weapon. So to me, that whole situation is like, the cops should definitely know what she was doing, right? But to me, on Mr. Wright's situation is, to me, this never would have played out if you didn't, try to resist from the cops, obviously, and try to run and get back in your vehicle. To me, I think if I'm in that situation, I think the same situation's going to play out. They're going to shoot me. If I'm pulled over by a police officer and I'm going to try to run from them, well, what do you think they're going to do now? It's 2021 now. What do you think's going to happen? So to me, I feel like it's both Officer and Mr. Wright are kind of both in the wrong here. If Daunte Wright did not try to resist, did not try to run from the cop and played it smooth, if he was just like, hey, what's going on? What's the problem here? But to me, for the officer to shoot him like that, 100% is wrong. So I think on this case of Daunte Wright's case, and I understand some people are going to have disagreements, but I think, on this case right here, I think Daunte Wright and the officer are both in the wrong here. If Mr. Wright if he played cool, played his cards cool, didn't freak out and try to run from the cops, he'd still be alive today. But to me, we see different instances, where it comes up where it's like, oh, another person shot. A kid shot in Chicago day in and day out. Actually, a 13-year-old recently just got shot. His name's Adam Toledo. He was so-called carrying a handgun. He's 13. He ends up getting shot by an officer. But look, when you're in that type of environment and you have a weapon on you, and cops, they're going to look at that as a threat, and to me, it's sad to say that, right? It's sad to be like, hey, when in our society today where people are going out in public afraid of cops, they're trying to avoid cops, and I've seen it before. I've seen a couple of my buddies panic, not because they were high on marijuana, because they were just generally scared of the police. We could be, in traffic and they're already like, oh, there's a cop right there, already fear. So to me, the younger generation right now, it makes sense. They're being taught to, hey, all cops are bad. Every single cop with a badge is a bad guy. You know what I'm saying? We could say that about, racist people. This type of race, oh, that guy's racist, so the whole type of group's racist? Not necessarily. So we got to judge the individual by their heart, to me. But the Daunte Wright, it's a crazy situation. It's bad. But I also want to get into the cops that are getting taken advantage of. For instance, the Darren Garrett situation, this cop ended up pulling this guy over. He had a couple issues, a couple, I think, mistakes in the past that they found out. Anyway, this guy ends up pulling him over in his truck. But to me, the whole situation is, if I'm a cop, I'm not going to tell him to step out of the vehicle on the highway, right? You know, it'd be different if we're in the neighborhood, stuff like that, but he tells him to get out. But little does this know, this cop's like routine walking back, and this guy pulls out an AR-15 and shoots him on the side. You know, cold-blooded right then and there, he's dead. You know what I'm saying? What about situations like that? You know, this cop, you know, he had children. You know what I'm saying? Like, he had a life. To me, this is crazy. And the guy who shot him, you know, he's dead now, obviously. You know, if you shoot an officer, you know the old saying is you're a dead man walking, and that's how it is. You know, and I've always been on record, and I've said an eye for an eye will leave us lost. In the end, it will. 100%. And what I mean by that is, you know, maybe instead of kill the guy, shoot him to wound and spend the rest of his life in jail. You know, he killed a cop. You know, cold-blooded, dude, at a regular, you know, on the highway, traffic stop. To me, it looked like a nice day, and he shot him cold-blooded, dude. You know, what about situations like that? You know, and I know in the past I brought up the Breonna Taylor situation. You know, yes, the cops were in the wrong in that one. You know, went to the wrong house, number one. You know, it took Breonna Taylor's life. You know what I'm saying? So there are mistakes that are made here, you know, and they continue to go. My whole thing is like, you know, in our society, when is it going to stop, you know? You know, let's look at the people in the past who, like, paved the way for our freedom here. You know, let's bring up some old timers back in the 60s, 70s, and 80s right now. Let's say they would live here today. What would they think about our society? You know, if they were existing today, what would they say? You know what I'm saying? Let's say if MLK was alive today, what would he say that's changed from the 60s and 70s? And to be honest with you, if he was here today and I was sitting with him right now and he was like, Cap, you know, not much has changed, honestly. You know, yes, some things have changed, but, you know, honestly, there's still hatred in the world. There's still racism in the world. We're still dealing with the same issues that before I even existed. You know what I'm saying? My thing is like, you know, why are we still battling with these same issues, bro? Why are we still battling with racism? You know, why are we still battling with stereotyping people that we don't know? Just because the way they look or the way they act, so we don't like them. You know, it's like we haven't even met. You know what I'm saying? So how are you not gonna like this person if you never met him? You know, and I feel you guys because, you know, the media, and I've said it before that, you know, the media, they're gonna put out what they want. You know, they're going to put out what they want us to hear out there, and I think, you know, a lot of the media right now is putting out all the negative stuff, right? You know, everything negative, all this bad, you know, where's all the good stuff? You know, and that's why I think about life. You know, life in general, it's like, what are you going to get out of your life, right? Are you going to get true happiness? Are you going to get true peace? But we have to understand a lot of people today, right now, they're not in happiness, dude. They're miserable. They hate their lives. They hate their situations. They hate what they're doing, dude. You know, so many people right now. And I think that's really what kind of fuels the hatred and racism as well. You know, because they can point the other finger or whatever, play the victim game. But a lot of the mistakes are, you know, we have to own up to them, right? You know what I'm saying? But to me, to our society right now, it's like, you know, we look down upon different types of people. For instance, like police officers, right? We look down on them, right? Because, you know, they're stereotypes, you know, we could say all this and that, but, you know, there are some loyal cops out there. There are some cops that are actually going to try to help you. You know what I'm saying? But the media is kind of portraying them to be like, hey, they're the villain now. You know, let's underpay the cops. You know, what's that going to do? If we're going to continue to underpay the cops, you know, what's going to happen? Well, violence is going to go up. You know, it's going to continue to rise. So to me, it's like, we got to know our boundaries, right? And to me, I just think if we just go on one side and not the other, we need to understand both sides right here. You know, in some stories, they're in the wrong for sure. You know, but my whole, like, back to what I was saying with the Delonte Wright is, you know, I understand, yes, I truly believe both sides are kind of in the wrong here. You know, yes, I think the lady officer should have put out her taser. You know, how are you going to mistake that? You know, that's a big mistake for not knowing, understanding the situation. You know, understanding that, you know, he didn't pull out a gun, the video that I saw. So to me, it's just like, there's different types of things. But I was always taught when we're talking with police officers in our society today in 2021, I was always taught, even back when I was a kid, is, look, don't argue with officers. Don't give them the reason to really, like, you know, maybe screw you over. You know what I'm saying? Like, what good is arguing going to do with police officers today? It's really a dead-end road. Even if you're right. Let's say he pulls you over and he said you ran a stop sign, but you didn't. Are you going to argue with him and say, no, I didn't prove it? It's just, I feel like it's a dead-end road. And some of the scenarios are definitely like, hey, I'm running this situation, or whatever the case is. My thing is stand your ground. You know what I'm saying? Because if you run, that's already a sign of why? It gives them the reason to shoot, really, honestly. And we keep seeing these incidences where guys are getting gunned down. You know what I'm saying? There was a guy in Indianapolis, that got gunned down on live Facebook. So, and obviously they told him to stop. They told him not to run. And he ran, obviously. But when it comes to this stuff, you have to understand that, hey, this is life or death now. It really is. Even a routine traffic stop could be life or death for the officer and also the civilian, on both sides. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, that officer in New Mexico got gunned down for no reason, bro. He had a kid on the way, and I think he had a couple kids already. So to me, imagine that family right now, what they're going through. Like I said, the Breonna Taylor situation, imagine what their family's going through. There's just so many instances in Minnesota, what they're going through. It just continues to go. To me, this has always existed, and I've always said, shout out to technology now, is where we can see it now. We can see it live. We can see it really whenever off the tip of our fingers. And that's what makes I feel like our generation right now is it's kind of dangerous in a way, right? Because we can get any type of information, snap of our fingers, super quick, dude. It's everything's right here, right now, dude, in 2021. And it's continuing to get quicker and quicker. Dealing even with anything out there, from Bitcoin to everything in the media right now, everything is just so quicker now. We're going to start to see a change, but, dealing with everything, all the hatred and stuff, when is it going to end? But sadly, it really boils down to us individually. You know what I'm saying? It boils down to us youth, the youth right now. We have to understand, a lot of the racism comes from the old culture. Comes from the 70s and 80s and 90s. We are the new wave to end all this. For real. To end the violence, to end the hatred, to end the racism right now. And not just to hate, just because somebody messed up, or we're going to hate their whole family. We're going to hate every single one of them because somebody else messed up. To me, we have to understand, hey, just because one bad apple doesn't mean they're all bad apples. You know what I'm saying? So let's not judge every single cop and say, oh, he's a bad cop, he's crooked, he will shoot people cold-blooded. Not every single cop's like that. You know what I'm saying? But we have cop killers too. We have people dying every single day. Every single day in Chicago. For real. This violence has been happening for centuries upon centuries. Now we can finally see it on the tip of our fingers now. What is it going to change? And I think, really what's most important now, moving forward in 2021 and going and continuing to move in the future is raising our youth to not hate certain types of people. It's no matter what, love everybody. No matter what their religion is, what they look like, where they're from, it doesn't matter. That does not matter at all. For real. This is real life right now. We're seeing off our tip of our hands everything that's going on. The killings, the riots, everything mixed up. COVID, all this stuff is just continuing to mix up. And people are losing their minds. And that's where anger leads. Anger leads to hatred and then violence, then killing, murder, cold-blooded. Right there. And we're seeing it. So to me, I think, we got to handle situations a little better, right? We do. And I feel like nowadays it's oh, I have more authority over you. I'm more powerful than you. You know what I'm saying? That type of mentality now. It's even the type of mentality. What's our mentality like, dude? And I really think it's hey, if someone does me wrong, I'm going to do them wrong times two. That's kind of the mentality our society has now. And that's really what's got us veered off in a different direction. And when I say a different direction, I mean a bad direction, dude. For real. We're seeing it, dude. We're seeing it in the media. All it takes is one mistake. That could be life or death. Trayvon Martin, life or death. They shot him because he was wearing a hoodie. You know what I'm saying? Stuff like that. Stuff like this continues to happen right now. And when is it going to end? Are we going to see this stuff continuing in 2022? You know, are we going to still see people getting gunned down? Are we still going to see police officers get shot? You know what I'm saying? Are we going to continue to see these gun violences? And a lot of people are like, well, Cap, what about the gun laws? You know, I get that. You know, do better background checks, all that, but it really boils down to the individuals. I don't think it would be good to take to take guns away from the Americans. I really think that'll really, like, boil it up. I really think that'll, like, stir the anger even more. I feel like it'll raise it up. And I feel like people will go crazy even more if we did that. So to me, I hope to God that Joe Biden does not, you know, do some dumb shit about the guns, really. Because the Americans, you know, we have to understand there's hardcore Americans, you know, definitely deep in the South and the Midwest that, hey, you know, they're not going to take your guns. They got that old school mentality where we're going to go to war no matter what type. You know, we don't want that. You know, war violence has been happening for so long, dude. So many lives, so much money's been spent on that stuff where it's like, it's irrelevant now. You know, but ultimately the youth today in 2021, we have to come to a realization is, you know, the youth, I'm saying the youth like teenagers, 20s, and even 30s, and even the 40s right now, still the youth. I really think we are the ones that have changed society in the next 100 to 200 years from now. We had that power. Okay, like we do. We have all the power in the world right now. And I feel like we're using that power for a negative way. Really, though. A negative bad way and shit. It's crazy, though. But I think moving forward, we need peace. We need love. We need happiness. No matter where you're from, no matter what you look like, that's what we need in 2021, baby. It's the Cloud with Cap show. Let's go!